All right, we continue now with tools for these times. And this segment exists because modern life is mentally exhausting in ways many people still underestimate. We have constant stimulation, constant comparison, constant uncertainty, constant thinking. And one thing I notice constantly today is how many people get trapped inside mental loops, replaying conversations, replaying fears, replaying mistakes, replaying worst case scenarios again and again and again. And this is totally normal. We all experience this. And psychologically, the brain often thinks if I keep thinking about this long enough, I will solve it. But many times, the loop itself becomes the real problem. And the perfect song title to represent this mental state is Got My Mind Set on You by George Harrison from 1987. The title itself already captures obsession nicely. I got my mind set on you. And psychologically, this is exactly what happens during rumination. Attention locks onto one thought, one fear, one person, one problem, and the brain keeps circling around it compulsively, around this thought. And most people don't even notice when this begins happening. People think, oh, I'm thinking, but actually, people are looping. And one of the most important psychological skills a person can develop is learning how to interrupt loops early. Not after 3 hours, not after 3 days, but early. Because once the nervous system fully enters the spiral, everything starts feeling heavier. So, this is where tonight's practical tool comes in. That is attention redirection. There is not repression, not pretending problems don't exist. It's redirection. Because attention is psychological energy. And if attention remains trapped in the same place for too long, the emotional state intensifies. So let's we have described the problem, right? So now let's think about another song that reminds us about the solution to this problem. And there's another song from the 80s that reminds me perfectly of the solution side of this. And that is Break My Stride by Matthew Wilder from 1983. Yes, you can smile and laugh. That is made totally on purpose. This is a practice. This is uh, an experimental exercise I practice when I practice as a psychotherapist. I currently don't practice anymore as a therapist since uh, I haven't been practicing for the last years as a psychotherapist, but in my years of practice, I experimented trying with these associations of funny songs or funny phrases from TV series or whatever that can link a complex abstract concept or problem with with something that can be memorable or that people can remember easily. So It's easier to remember the song title or a phrase from the lyrics and then associate the problem with the solution. So whenever you get in, you are aware of the problem, you immediately allow your mind to remember the name of the song that leads you to what is the solution and what to do to solve it. So look at this line from Break My Stride. Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. Nobody gonna slow me down. And psychologically, what's interesting about this lyric is that it reminds us movement matters, momentum matters. So mental loops trap people in internal movement only. But changing state physically often changes emotional state too. And that's why one of the healthiest things a person can do when overthinking starts is interrupt that inertia physically by walking, moving, changing rooms, change music or go outside, stretch, sing, dance badly in the kitchen if necessary, whatever. But seriously, because thoughts are not isolated from the body. And sometimes people try solving emotional overload only intellectually. When, when what they actually need first is nervous system movement. And that is the interesting trick behind this segment. Instead of remembering technical psychological terminology, you will remember songs. So every time you notice yourself trapped in I got my mind set on you, also you will remember Break My Stride. One song reminds you of the trap. The other song reminds you of the exit. And music works beautifully for this because songs are emotionally memorable. Much more memorable than clinical terminology, for sure. So, almost everyone experiences this kind of mental looping at some point, right? Especially during stress, during loneliness, uncertainty, during breakups, fear about the future, right? And modern life gives people way too many opportunities to stay mentally trapped inside their own heads. So now I would like to ask you honestly, what song helps you reset mentally when your thoughts become too heavy? Please practice if you're falling into this looping kind of trap with rumination. Try to practice to remember the Got My Mind Set on You by George Harrison, and then remember the Break My Stride song, to remember to do something else, to move, to go for a walk, to dance, to change room in order to break the cycle of repetition. And let me know how the experience goes for you. So that's part of what this whole show is secretly about. Not escaping life through nostalgia, but recovering but emotionally useful things from music and bringing them into the present to be helpful, to help us uh, cope, to help us endure whatever we are going through. Because songs are not only entertainment, sometimes they become anchors and reminders and coping tools and emotional companions. And that's much more powerful than many people realize. All right, that was tonight's Tools for This Time segment. And from now on, we'll keep building this little psychological toolbox together, one song at a time.